8:34, welcome back to Good Day Columbia. The reasons for doing it are many. Maybe you're focused on your career right now. Maybe you want to wait until you meet Mr. Right, but your body certainly isn't going to wait. Maybe you're battling cancer. Well, whatever the personal reason, the practice of egg freezing is one of the hottest topics in reproductive research around. It's a practice that is happening more and more, and the results actually are becoming more and more successful. Joining me this morning from Coastal Fertility, Dr. Michael Slowey. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Very fascinating stuff. You know, I think of freezing, I hate to say it, but I think of Han Solo being frozen in The Empire Strikes Back, where everything just is suspended in time.
Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. Hopefully we'll get to that point in some time. But cells are very different.
Right.
They're full of water, and each cell has different water content, so they're going to freeze differently.
I see.
So that's why our focus is primarily on freezing cells, and the egg has been a very difficult cell to freeze because it's the largest cell in the body, and it's a giant bag of water.
All right. Let me ask you this. So, you know, we're talking about egg fertilization for folks. You know, there's many reasons why you don't. Like we just talked about, you're looking for Mr. Right. You know, maybe you're battling cancer right now, and you later on maybe can have, have a baby. But what are you seeing for candidates that actually are doing that?
Well, there are three major things that people who can do this. Number one, fertility preservation. That can be your cancer patients, because we know the radiation and chemotherapy can be devastating to reproduction. So we try to freeze eggs, and it can also be done for the sperm for the guys to be able to preserve a gamete so that they can be able to have a child later.
Is it the same process then for sperm and for eggs?
It's a little bit different process. Sperm has actually frozen well over the years. Being able to freeze eggs well is brand new.
Okay. How many years back have you been actually successfully maybe freezing eggs?
Well, the first pregnancy from a frozen egg was 1984.
Okay.
However, being able to do it well is a relatively new thing, maybe in the last 3 to 5 years.
Sure. What is I guess maybe we need to back up and define infertile. When you've got a couple, there must be some baseline, we're an infertile couple. What is that baseline?
Basically, that's a year of unprotected intercourse without a successful pregnancy.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean you have to have the candles lit and the mood music or anything. It means you're not using effective contraception.
Okay.
Okay. That's our infertile couples. But this is technology that can be used for potentially fertile couples. If you have a cancer diagnosis,
right.
Well, we don't know if you're fertile or not, but we want to try to preserve something for you. There are the young women that you've mentioned that haven't found Mr. Right yet, and they don't want to be single moms.
Right.
And so it allows them to freeze eggs rather than embryos having used donor sperm to give them that flexibility later on to be able to conceive without worrying about the ravages of age on their ovarian function. And then a third group where we use it quite frequently is our in kind of emergency situations where certain things are not working in, let's say, an in vitro fertilization process. The guy's unable to produce a specimen, the specimen's extremely poor and not going to work. We're able to salvage that cycle by freezing the eggs and then allow us to regroup, come back, and do what we need to do to get sperm to inseminate those eggs.
To get those
right,
guys
exactly
all in
right.
the gym and working out.
Yep,
so
get
to
them ready to roll.
Yeah. What is the ideal candidate for a donor, whether you're donating to somebody else or you say, hey, I want to keep it for myself for later?
Well, good ovarian function is the key, and you can be younger or you can be a little bit older, ideally 35 and under. Now, our egg donors who are going to donate eggs to women whose ovaries that don't work are all under 32, and typically in our practice they're in their mid-20s.
Okay.
So that's really the kind of ideal age group. But for example, I've been speaking with a patient just recently who's 38. Her ovarian function is good. She is going to be married this spring, but she and her husband, very reasonably so, no, they don't want to start children right off the bat.
Right.
But she realizes that time may take reproduction out of the question if they're not careful. So she's planning on freezing eggs up front so that she and her husband have the flexibility of time to establish their relationship and their marriage.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back with Dr. Michael Slowey, Coastal Fertility, talking about the practice of freezing eggs. Whatever the reason may be, it certainly is becoming a more prevalent option for young men and women who want to hang on and maybe have a baby later in life. Stay with us. We're going to talk more about the actual process and what it means and how it's done. We'll come right back. All right, thank you very much, Gary. Continuing on with Dr. Michael Slowey from Coastal Fertilization down in Columbia, and talking about the practice of, or Coastal Fertility, excuse me, the practice of freezing eggs as a means to, have a family later on for myriad of reasons we've discussed. But what's the process? How do you actually harvest the egg once the candidate, it's a good candidate, she's in the age range, producing good eggs. How do you do it?
Well, basically you have to go through an in vitro fertilization stimulation process,
Okay.
where we use hormonal medicines to make the follicles that contain the eggs in the ovary develop over a period of about a week to 2 weeks. Then we do an egg retrieval, which is a brief minor surgical procedure. The patient is asleep for it. We take an ultrasound. We go transvaginally with it. We have a needle attached to it, which is why they're asleep.
Right.
And we just pop the needle through the vaginal wall into the ovaries. It's very quick. Literally takes 10 minutes to do. It's efficient.
And the egg, we're talking itty microscopic egg, right? I mean, how big is like an egg?
An egg is just slightly below our visual range, so you could probably see it with a magnifying glass.
Okay, but short. So I mean, you're talking about it's like a little itty bitty little
Yes,
thing.
but what we see in ultrasound are the follicles, which generally are about 2 centimeters in size, so just not quite an inch in size. Very, very big target for the ultrasound. Pop a needle in there, suction out the fluid. The egg comes with the fluid. So that's how we get the eggs. Now the freezing process is very different now. In the old days, that first egg freezing pregnancy in 1984 was done with what we call slow freezing. It was taken through of serial dilutions of different solutions and frozen gradually by gradually decreasing the temperatures. Now what we do is called vitrification, or a term a lot of people like to use is flash freezing, where literally the egg is in a different solution in a little loop and dipped into liquid nitrogen.
And it's
Frozen like that,
instantaneous.
yeah. And that has revolutionized what we've been able to do. In the old days, only half the eggs or fewer would survive the thawing process. Now it's over 95% survive the thawing process. And once we go from there, they perform very well.
Sure. Now, of course, Coastal Fertility, you guys had the first, second, and third successful egg freezing, unfreezing babies born here.
That's correct. We've made a significant investment in time and staff to be able to utilize these technologies because we were able to see how beneficial they can be for our patients.
Where is some of this research done? Is it done in labs somewhere, or some of the research actually you're finding it as you go? Because I mean, of course, every patient's different.
For us, we're not going to be the ones, as a kind of medium-sized practice, we're not going to be the ones developing this. Some of these technologies start out in basic science laboratories and then work into large clinical centers. The key is to try to be able to recognize these new technologies and make the investment to learn how to do it. And we've done it, and we've done it very, very well. It is something that we very frequently do now in our practice.
Very good. Dr. Michael Slowey. Coastal Fertility is the clinic down in the Low Country, but certainly if it's a consideration for you, again, if cancer, you want to wait for whatever reason, myriad of reasons, maybe the biological clock is ticking, you certainly can consult, there we go, a reproductive doctor and experts, and you guys certainly can advise the best route. Because there are several. There's more than just the freezing eggs. There's several. So, Doc, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a fantastic Christmas with the family in Low Country.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
Thank you very much. Guys, stick around. We are not done just yet. We got more Good Day Columbia on the way. A full check of the forecast with Garrett Biedenbach. And also, there is a country music star who may be writing his new song because he's inspired by seeing the inside of a Texas jail. Yes, stay with us. Nashville 94 is coming up.